And a very good morning to everybody out there who happens to come across this video. Today we are in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, starting up at an elevation of just about 1,800 feet, and we're going to be going up to 4,000 feet. We're going up Mouth Tecumseh today. The shortest of the 4,000 footers, and not technically a mountain, that is 4,000 feet. It's exactly 3,997 feet, but due to a surveying error, it is included with the 4,000 footers. I'm going to put my phone down so I can cross this stream. I've already seen some pretty nice stuff blooming, but we're gonna get a little ways into the trail before we start picking anything out. And I would hate to drop my phone in this ice cold mountain water. But anyway, we'll check back in with you in just a moment. Okay, right off the bat, we're going to be seeing this guy a lot today. This is a species of Viburnum. This is Viburnum, I believe, lantanoides. They call this Hobblebush. Formerly in the family Caprifoliaceae, it's now placed in a family called Adoxaceae. Included in that family as well is Elderberry. So if you like, a lot of people like the elderberries, they like these. As you can see, the things around the outside are not true flowers. The true flowers are there in the middle, and the leaves are actually really soft. They feel quite nice, with some pretty prominent venation there on the back. Plenty more of it across the way, and I think we'll pretty much see in the sky all day. I've never seen this actually flower because I don't usually come out that early, but pretty little berries on it are usually what I'm coming across. And again, these big showy things here, these are not actually flowers. These are merely attractants for pollinators, and the flowers are here in the middle. Pretty interesting. You see that a lot with dogwoods. You see that sometimes with hydrangeas. And I do not believe that these are too distantly related from either of those families. So we're going to keep moving because we got a lot to cover. He doesn't look too hot, but this is a painted Trillium. This is Trillium undulatum, or Trillium undulatum. I think that's what the scientific name is. Weird plant, because this stem is not a true stem. This is a part of the rhizome, and these leaves are not leaves at all. They are bracts, but typically there's a much bigger and more beautiful white and purple flower hanging out on top of this guy. As you can see, he's got the little sepals there that subtend the top of that flower. And I don't know what happened to it. There's one right there that hasn't come up fully yet. I seen Trillium Erectum 2 weeks ago, but we were hiking then, and we had to turn back because it was still absolutely freezing. And I didn't see any other Trilliums over here, so I don't know what happened to this one, but hopefully I get to see a much more impressive specimen of a Trillium further up the way. There's another one there that hasn't bloomed yet. I really haven't made it that far down the trail, but I'm coming across all sorts of good stuff. This is one of my favorites. That's a member of the family Arisaema right there that I had seen down south. Its common name is Jack-in-the-Pulpit, and scientific name is Arisaema triphyllum, and that is an aroid wildflower, similar to the skunk cabbages and other assorted plants in the family. I'm not going to reach over because I don't want to step off the trail, but if you lifted up that little hood right there, you'd see a tiny little guy hanging out in there. That is actually the inflorescence, and that entire thing you're basically seeing, which looks like a folded over leaf, is the spathe, which is wrapped around inflorescence down there on the flower. Beautiful wildflower, and these specimens are, all these things you see with 3 leaves are all individuals of it that just haven't bloomed yet. There's one down there that bloomed. But these look a lot more robust than the specimens I was seeing down closer to where I work, actually right behind my work, but love seeing this family of plant. Okay, I'm dragging my feet because we're still at the beginning of this trail, but we've already just come across so much good stuff. Here's a different species of Trillium. This is Trillium Erectum. I saw this in bud about 2 weeks ago on a different mountain. Families Melanthaceae. Used to be lumped in with lilies. I mean, it's not too distantly related from lilies. It's obviously a monocot. You get the parts of 3. 3 bracts swirled around that inflorescence. And then obviously up here we've got the inflorescence with the 3 sepals, 3 petals, 6 stamens, and then a 3-lobed stigma. There's another one. This is a different species than the one I just was looking at a minute ago. And then over there we've got a pretty sad looking specimen of Erythronium. Is it Erythronium borealis, I think, is it? No, Clintonia borealis, that's the other lily. It's one of the, I'll put the thing down below because I just don't recall right now. But if I find a specimen of it, further up the mountain, phenology is going to be a bit different, and we might see one of those guys in bloom, because I've seen a few of them looking kind of like they've been to hell and back. All right, keep moving. Lots of good stuff so far. Okay, here we go. Oh, this one's a mutant. So we got a mutant example of Trillium undulatum here. Still kind of looking like these guys are getting picked apart. I think it's kind of early in the season for them, but whatever. This one's got 4 bracts swirled around the inflorescence. That's pretty cool. But yeah, same 3 petals. Obviously, these ones are a little bit smaller than Trillium erectum, the other species we just seen. And these ones get the white and the pink flowers. Same thing going on there with the extended rhizome. Same thing going on with the bracts. And then same general flower structure. Just a little bit different in appearance. There's 2 more right there. It looks like one's coming up or trying to come up. But I don't know why these are getting picked apart. You know, Trillium undulatum, painted Trillium. One of my favorites. So I learned a lesson while filming this video, and that was don't do this hungover. This is not Sorbus americana, which is what I misidentify it as. This is Sambucus racemosa. This is a red elderberry. The other species of elderberry we get is Sambucus nigra, which is the black elderberry. It's a relative of Viburnum, actually one of 2 genera in the family Edoxaceae, native to New England. It's a really cool plant in its own right. Not terribly rare, but it was cool to see it, and it also smells amazing. You're going to have to cut me some slack. I was 2 for 2 on mis-IDs here. This is Erythronium americanum, a plant that I had just shown you like 5 minutes earlier in the video. Got the 3 sepals, got the 3 petals, 6 stamens, and a 3-carpelled stigma there on the end of that style, typical of the lily family. Super early blooming plant, was already finishing up on the mountain, even in early May. This guy is on the trail, so I can just show you this guy. This is that Arisaema triphyllum. Look at the venation on the back of the spathe there. That's the spadix down in there. That's the actual cluster of flowers. Again, families Arisaea. Triphyllum because it's got these, you know, 3-way segmented leaves. I don't know what he's doing all the way up here. He's pretty far from the water, but it is very, very damp. Pretty much everywhere. So from here, you get a pretty good example of what the tortured geology of the Northeast looks like. This is just a massive chunk of granite tilted sideways and flipped up, you know, here 2,000 feet up the side of a mountain. You can see all the talus falling off of this as it sheathes and exfoliates. And of course, you always have your erratic boulders placed seemingly without reason everywhere. And a nice, another one of those red trilliums. We haven't even made it probably a sixth of the way into the hike, and I've already come across almost every single target species I had for today. We're going to get up a little bit higher and get up into the subalpine. I'll show you some black spruces and some balsam firs, but as far as flowering plants go, I pretty much hit the majority of what I was hoping to see today. I think I misspoke before when I identified... You did, you dumbass! One of those lilies, that's Clintonia borealis. I'm pretty sure that that was Erythronium americanum. It's a little early in the year for the Clintonia species to be blooming. All these modded leaves you see down here are that Erythronium, that same lily I was looking at. Yeah, right here. Here's one. Yeah, I don't think this is a Clintonia. I think that's Erythronium. I might end up swimming in that later. So here we have a good example of altitude's effects on phenology. This is a north-facing slope right here, so it's much colder than the surrounding, you know, if you go over on that side in the sun. And here's that Viburnum we saw right down at the bottom of the mountain in bloom, just waking up for the season. Still in bud in some cases. Many such examples of phenology exist in the mountain habitat. So you go up in elevation, it gets colder, and the clock, so to speak, on most plants gets set back a bit. Right now, we're kind of, I think, just over 2,000 feet in elevation, and we're still kind of in this transition woods. Lots of hemlocks, lots of birches that some jackass rode on, and starting to get into some of the spruce trees now. Oh, and lots of beech trees as well. So we're going to keep going. The flowers have, for the most part, actually tapered off. Nothing really going off yet at this elevation. When we were, you know, 300 feet lower, 500 feet lower, about an hour ago. Obviously, plenty of stuff was still going off. Here's a really good patch of these viburnums. These are just barely coming out of bud. The flowers are in bud. And yeah, we'll get up to the subalpine zone. We don't get up to the full alpine. You know, you got to be about 4,500 feet in this region of the world to get into the full alpine. But we'll see the nice subalpine forest on the summit. We'll have a snack. I'll probably jump in one of these pools of water. Like I said, 2 weeks ago, a trail like this, we were coming across snow at only about 3,000 feet of elevation. I suspect you might still see a little bit of snow, but it's supposed to be incredibly hot today. So who knows what we'll be dealing with. We'll check back in a little while. Hey, just a heads up about this part of the video onwards. I start talking about geology. I'm not 100% correct on some of the things I'm saying, but generally speaking, the idea I'm trying to convey across here is this idea that the Northeast has had numerous different mountain building and then subsequent mountain destruction events over the last, 500 million years, if not longer. The current shape of the mountains was largely etched out by the ice ages. All that's true. Just read the little things on the bottom. I clarify a few points. I only say one thing false, and that's I get two of the orogenies mixed up in terms of their timelines. But sit back and enjoy if you want. Otherwise, you can basically end the video here. I pretty much stopped talking about plants and switched to just talking about the White Mountain region at large. But it's up to you. Yeah, if I didn't mention it before, we're actually hiking up a ski mountain right now. It is hot as balls where I am right now. Across the way there, specifically, not above my finger, but that high peak on the left, that's going to insist on zooming out on my finger. That's North Tri-Pyramid. That's another one of the 4,000 footers. And then it's got Middle and South Tri-Pyramid next to it. Up over there, obscured by clouds, is a taller mountain. That's Osceola. And a Tri-Pyramid over there is topping out at about 4,100 feet. And down below us is the expanse of Waterville Valley, carved out by glaciers over the course of, honestly, not that many years, probably a few thousand years. These mountains, you'll often hear in casual conversation, the White Mountains used to be, huge. There was a massive range running, the length of the Appalachians, and that's true, but there's actually three of them. Three separate mountain building events took place, and then a period of glaciation actually carved these mountains out to their final form. You had the tectonic orogeny, which is just the fancy word for mountain building event that took place, I don't even know, several 100 million years ago. Those mountains were eroded away and became most of the soil, filling in areas of the Midwest. Then you had the Allegheny orogeny, which built quite a bit of the hills and the Catskill area. Also, basically eroded away, filled in the Catskill Delta. And then finally you had the Arcadian orogeny, which was what originally uplifted these mountains, which were then subsequently, that was about 300 million years ago, subsequently ground down. But then during the period of glaciation that we experienced here in the Northeast, essentially these, resilient caps of what's basically just granite were left behind as the glaciers receded and actually carved the mountains back out of the surrounding terrain, which is kind of a roundabout way of saying that the geology of this area is completely tortured. Volcanic activity has been done for hundreds of millions of years here. Tectonic activity has been done for hundreds of millions of years. The last period of glaciation, ending about 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, shaped this area to what it looks like. So yes, very old rock, but I believe mountains in a form factor that's not entirely that ancient. And again, we'll get one last beautiful shot of Mount Tri-Pyramid over there, a mountain we climbed last year, and you get a nice view of the ski slopes from that mountain there. It really is impossible to overstate just how much glaciation has impacted the obviously the geology, but more specifically the topography of this area. This is just, a massive boulder called an erratic that was picked up from somewhere, probably further up this mountain, where this mountain was much taller, and then deposited here by a retreating ice sheet. The largest, this is a phenomenon you get all over the world, wherever you've had glaciation, but the largest glacial erratics seem to come from this region of the world. Madison, New Hampshire is where they've got the largest one, which weighs about as much as an ocean freighter. All right, so we're about at 2,900 feet, and as you can see, most of the hardwood trees have all tapered off into a mix of hemlock, spruce. Yeah, we're not really to the fir yet, but the hemlock tree is Tsuga canadensis, eastern hemlock, and the spruce tree would be Picea mariana. Also probably have some taxus, some yew blended in with this of I don't know, I think it's Taxus canadensis. I think they call it the Canada yew. But as you can see, we also still have some of the birches hanging on for softwoods, being that they are extremely cold and moisture tolerant. And I mean, you can see even as the logs rot out, that bark still lingers. They used to make canoes out of those. Looking upslope, yeah, plenty of birch and hemlock and black spruce trees. Over there you get some adjacent mountain peaks, and then behind us is the valley below. And we'll keep going. We just passed some people who said there was some snow up the way. A little bit further upward, exactly 3,000 feet right now. But you stick your hand in here, there's just ice cold air coming out of this little post hole here. You can clearly see, I mean, it's hot right now. I'm sweating my ass off. But you can clearly see how not too long ago, and we were only at 3,000 feet right now. These mountains go up above 6,000 feet in some areas. But you can see how not too long ago, this area was pretty clearly still glaciated. So unfortunately, this guy fell over, but he's made an excellent habitat for wolf lichen. Kind of looks like Spanish moss, but it's not. Spanish moss isn't a moss, but this is actually a lichen. I forget the scientific name for it, but I'll put it down below. Beautiful symbiosis of a fungi and an algae, and sometimes a cyanobacteria. And these guys need pristine, crystal clear, high quality air, which is why you'll find them up here in the mountains, far away from urban centers and far above the ground, but no longer in the forests of lower elevation New England or urban areas like that. We're actually getting pretty close to the summit. It leveled off for us a little bit, but I know that it's gonna get steep again for the last little hike. And we're up here now, basically in the subalpine forest. Most of the birch trees have tapered off. We're dealing with almost exclusively black spruce trees. But I don't think we get high enough to see any sort of a Krumholtz habitat. If we were maybe going up an elevation another 200 or 300 feet above where the summit of this peak is, we would definitely be seeing some nice Krumholtz balsam firs and black spruces. But we'll settle just for appreciating the habitat for what it is. All right, we're up at the summit of Mouth Tecumseh. I'm just checking out these beautiful balsam fir trees here. Like I said, a lot of people use this at Christmas for Christmas trees. But I wanted to make a comment to say these are the only species in the genus Abies you get up here in the Northeast. You get Abies fraseri as you follow the spine of the Appalachians, which apparently is technically a much more rare tree. Although there is some debate over whether Abies balsamea and Abies fraseri are in fact the same species. There on those ones, you can see they've got some of the remnants of those upwardly tilted cones. And then down through here, it's just a wash down to the base of the mountain. Some of the black spruce, Picea mariana, also growing. And as you can see, not getting very tall here up at the summit. Not quite Krumholtz like they would be if we were up another 500 feet, but certainly not growing as big as they were, a couple hundred feet down the mountain where they had a bit more shelter. And aside from the, upward cones that you get on the, balsam fir versus the downward cones you get on the spruce, the fir also has a much softer texture to the needles. You know, spruce feels like it's gonna stab you and rip your fingers apart. And fir is nice and fluffy. It also smells amazing, even just standing here, not, you know, touching the foliage or anything like that. You can smell, you know, how good these things smell. There's a pretty good market for that balsam scented incense. Can go back up. I already took a panorama view a second ago. There's not much to see though. You look straight down, you get ski trails down over here on the right, and then they've got the ski chalet down at the base of the mountain. But up over here, you got, you know, the Sandwich Range across from us. Mount Osceola is over here. And then if it wasn't so humid, you'd be able to see Mount Washington somewhere around over there, topping out the entire region at 6,200 feet, but it's quite far away from where we're at right now. We're basically at the southern end of where the mountains pick up in elevation. But we're going to turn around. We're going to head back down pretty soon. Well, the second we come down off the summit, we're greeted by a little bit of residual snow. And it's pretty damn hot, but clearly you can see how if it was just ever so slightly colder, this could theoretically persist pretty much through the year. And I mean, it's been widely theorized that these patches of snow did in fact, you know, persist throughout the year. Even as recently as a few thousand years ago, there was probably a little bit of that residual glaciation. And I mean, we've got spikes with us if we really need them, but I don't think this is going to be too bad. 2 weeks ago, we were up here on the Carter Dome, which is a little bit to the northeast of here, and quite a bit taller than this mountain, and it was completely packed in with solid ice still. But it appears to be melting at a quite reasonable pace, and I suspect come next month, June, it will be all gone. And you basically get to enjoy the only 2 snow-free months in the White Mountains, which is July and August. Thumbs up. So we're coming down the mountain. We're getting ready to close out this video. Always just taking note of some of the monotropis growing all the way up here. And I mean, there's nothing flowering above, fly on my finger. There's nothing flowering really above 2,500 feet, 2,600 feet. And we're still up in elevation. But what I did want to point out is, you know, we're here in New Hampshire, commonly called the Granite State. And there certainly is a lot of granite in New England. But what I'm standing on right now does not look like granite. This looks more like schist. And in fact, you'd be surprised to find out, get off me, fly, that, well, the old man on the mountain, a, you know, really, not enigmatic, emblem of the state basically was made out of granite, and so is the entire cannon cliff from which it was eroded away from. Much of the White Mountains are actually composed of schist and gneiss, just like this. There seems to be a band of it. I have seen plenty of granite, obviously, but I took note of this coming up, and I wanted to show it going down. That is not granite that you would see in the Granite State. Still a metamorphic rock, still formed, you know, deep under earth, and crushed and baked and tortured like every other aspect of the geology of the Northeast. Very violent history of the rocks here. That's the main point I want to get across. And absolutely no rhyme or reason to just about anything. It's been uplifted 3 times, compressed into the Earth's surface, and scraped away at by multiple glaciers in the most recent, you know, epoch of geologic time. And eventually, they will crumble into the sea as the 2, you know, uplift events that I talked about earlier did, the Taconic and the Acadian, or I'm sorry, the Taconic and the Alleghenian mountains no longer exist. They're piles of rubble in New York and in the Midwest, and eventually these White Mountains, and in fact the entirety of Appalachia, will succumb to the same fate as those ancient mountain ranges. But not the Adirondacks, which are not a part of the Appalachian, though they are consisted of the oldest rock in the Northeast. The Adirondacks, for whatever reason, are still uplifting, and they're not entirely sure why. So, something to keep in consideration for. You can see they pile it up. They've actually built a nice staircase through here to kind of walk along. The AMC and the RMC both do really good jobs of maintaining these trails. But unless I happen across, oh, there's another big block of ice. Unless I happen across anything exceptionally interesting, the next time I check in, it may be that I'm saying goodbye for the day. Yeah, this doesn't look anything like granite now, does it? Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up right about here. You know, we've come down, I don't even know what elevation we're at now, probably not too much over 2,000 feet. Coming down from 4,000 feet up there, and just one last little plant to show you here, because it's a cool one and one of my favorite maples. This is Acer pennsylvanica, aka the striped maple. And this guy is cool because, I mean, he is just a specialist at growing almost, you know, completely shaded out by other trees in the moist forest. And they're, like other maples, highly tolerant of said moisture. And the moose knock these guys over and eat them. They don't grow too big. And this is another one that is fairly widespread up here. Like you'll find it in lowland, woodland areas, just about everywhere, you know, up, so long as you're far enough north. And then as you go south, its range becomes more and more constricted to the higher elevations of the southern Appalachians, which is a really common distribution pattern for, you know, not necessarily mountain plants up north, but certainly mountain plants of the south will do a little bit better up here where they get the colder winters and a bit more of that winter moisture in the form of snow. But we're hiking out now. We're about to re-enter the area where we saw all those plants going off at the beginning. I'll try to contain myself because I'm hungry and I want some lunch. But we'll take one more look at this beautiful, oh geez, of course, my brain is always, I was just saying the name of it. The Hobblebush, you know what it is. I already said the name of it. What's his name again? You don't remember? No. I feel bad. It's not because I don't know. It's because my brain is fried from thinking. But it's a Viburnum. Duh. The Viburnum lantanoides. With the true flowers there in the middle. If I didn't get a good close-up on those before. And then the fake floral attractants on the side. Really cool. We're going to hike out of here. I need a beer and a steak and cheese. And to not walk for the rest of the day. So I hope you guys all take it easy and come back for the next video. This is certainly, probably to me, the most interesting one I've been able to do so far. Okay, so actually one last thing to show you. And these aren't flowering, but it's a really cool plant. This is yet another member of the lily family. It's got that world leaves, and then up top here, another set of world leaves, and then the inflorescence comes out. This is Mediola virginiana, the so-called cucumber root. Oh, some hair on those leaves. And the roots of these guys are in fact edible. It's a little tuber, but I don't recommend yanking them because I mean, in some places they're pretty endangered. You know, there's two more coming up right there. And again, no inflorescence is out. Little tiny lily flower when it does come out. There's a Trillium Erectum back there. We've seen so many goddamn Trilliums. And then underneath the Viburnum. But I think that's going to do it. I can't possibly think of anything else that's going to separate me from my beer and steak and cheese. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Actually, you get quite a few of these, those mediolas. I'm surprised none of them, not one is flowering. Still a little bit too early for them. I mean, you go up the mountain even just a little bit from here, nothing's really flowering. Down here, it's the early spring stuff is flowering and just finishing up. Trillium undulatum, we've already seen plenty of, coming up with his not too distantly related lily brethren. I believe that the Trillium family, Melanthacea, is still in the order Liliales. I could be mistaken. They did a whole bunch of splitting up and dividing of that subfamily. But this was a great video. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I hope people enjoyed watching it if anybody did in fact watch it. It's very busy. Mm-hmm.